I love to tell people, learn the rules, follow the rules, break the rules. In that order. And I did that. I wrote a book or two, bunch of short stories, and I wrote them how I wanted to. And sometimes they'd come back from people I sent them off to with some advice, and I'm just like, whatever, I know what I'm doing. I did it. There was a lot to learn, and there's always more to learn. So I spent 10 years learning the rules and following the rules. And now I've looked back across that 10-year span and went, obviously following the rules isn't the formula to success. So now what can I do to stand out? Let's look back at what I originally did that I loved doing. Let's see where we can combine the two.
Hello, everyone. We are live. This is your host, Michael Yerby with the most, as in Roku Podcast Network, here today on Unfiltered Fridays. And you know, we like to go live with beautiful and wonderful guests who have a story to tell, who just want to hang out and relax. So we got Travis here with us. He loves sci-fi fantasy. He's a wonderful podcast host and of many podcasts, actually, an author, voice actor, and we're just going to get into the grind with him and just talk about resilience, self-development, and all of the above. So, hey, this is going to be one episode for the ages. So get ready, buckle up, and let's have a good time, okay? All right, let's go, people. So, Travis.
Yes, Michael.
Start this off. I always like to ask the question, like, who are you?
Who am I?
Yes.
I'm the guy that stands in the background and watches everybody and observes them and then has stories either because they're going to talk to me and tell me their story, or I'm going to watch them and put the pieces together to create a story of my own for them. I'm the guy that likes to tell everybody else they're doing great. And that comes across in all the work I've done, whether it's podcast, books, or live speaking engagements, whatever. The important thing to me is to help other people enjoy life, find their own meaning, their own purpose, their own value. Because once we're all doing that, we tend to get along and help each other, and that's a beautiful thing.
Very true. So what made you like that? What made you have that type of philosophy? And when did it really come together and click for you?
It's a great question. And I think it's one of those things, I've always been wired this way. Now that we're in an era, when I was coming up, we didn't have a lot of the things we have words for now. Even ADHD wasn't a thing. And autism wasn't a thing. And I'm pretty sure I'm on that spectrum somewhere. Because I've always been a friend to everybody. And if I see anybody who's outside of the group, I try to bring them in. It's just in my wiring. In second grade, I never got out of that mindset of wanting to play with everybody on the playground, especially if they look like they don't have friends, because we all want that, right? Just a little friendship, just a little fun, and to do our thing and have somebody maybe to do it with. And by the way, in the intro, you mentioned resilience. I want to get back to that at some point in time in our discussion, because that's something 2024 was, it was a bully. So I'd love to go back to that if we have time a little later.
Yeah, no problem. Let's explore now. So define resilience for you, of how it applies to you.
Getting back up when you're kicked, when you're knocked down, getting back up. And I've had that all my life. It's I never knew when to quit, and I've had a life philosophy of you do not fail until you quit, because there's always a chance of success if you don't give up. And 2024, it was a mean little sucker. I thought I was doing good, and then I started looking at things. My son got in a motorcycle accident, hit head on by a truck. I had a hard drive crash with 18 books on it that I was looking to publish last year. My wife went through very serious surgery. There was just one thing. My cat died. So many things, one after another. that, well, when you get one thing, you're like, I handled the thing. When you get like 3 or 5 at a time, you're like, okay, come on, what's going on here?
Yeah.
And it took a lot of this ripped away my personal identity, especially the hard drive with those books and those podcasts. And I didn't necessarily quit. It was more like, come on, everybody was doing it in 2024. What do we call it? Like soft quitting or quiet quitting?
You're quiet quitting, yep.
It was more of that. I just kind of stepped back and like Homer in the bushes, just kind of faded away.
Wow.
But I'm guessing, listening to your background and your history, you've done this before too. There's only so long you could stay down before you're like, you know what? I need to do something. I've got to do something. And maybe I won't take it as serious, so I can relax and enjoy it again and not charge in head first and all that.
Yeah.
But I think the message of resilience, being able to get back up after you've been knocked down, and that might take some time. It might not be the very next minute or the very next day. It might take months.
Yeah.
But to allow yourself that time to heal, get your equilibrium, whatever, and be able to stand back up and do it because you love it, not because you have to.
Yeah. And that is true, to build up that muscle memory to do something, like, and you have it, it's like, I just couldn't imagine, like, and I really want to give the breath to everything you're saying, because I don't want to skip over any of that. You're talking about your son who in an accident. Did he survive?
Yes. Actually, that's all a perfect ending for anybody who's on the edge of their seat about that. He had a GoPro running when the truck swerved into his lane. He only broke 2 bones in his forearm.
Okay.
So, and that's horrible.
Yeah.
But out of all the things he could have had happen, he was also wearing full protection, jeans, biker boots, a jacket with the spine protector. He had all the right things. And he went through a cast and a little bit of trouble. But if you're going to have that experience, he had kind of the upper good way to go experience in that. And my wife, with her surgeries, are fine. And, everything worked out fine, unless you cling to it. If you're somebody who clings to, oh, something bad happened, instead of looking for the next thing that you can look at as good, then, oh, it's horrible and I'm a broken person. But I just can't do that. I got to look for the next thing and stand back up, dust off, and find something to make me smile and take that trauma in my life and just use it to build. Use it to build.
It's crazy that some people use their struggles, their hardships, as like a badge of honor to consistently tell people that, look at me, look at the things I went through, and this is why I'm this way, as an excuse. Why is it that you, especially with 4 things happening in 2024 like that, didn't take that time to make an excuse, but you just took the time to make yourself, I guess, available to it, recognize it, and then from there you was like, okay, it's time to get back. What's in you that do you think other people really need to hear so that they can let go of whatever they're holding on to?
Choice. You have to make a choice, a conscious choice. I may be wired this way, but it gets to a point that you have to choose. Look, I've been broken. Am I going to walk with my scars, or am I going to lay down? Because a body of motion stays in motion. A body at rest stays in rest. I have, like we all do, things that we went through that physically hurt my body. I got bad knees. But if I do a workout, which is more physical therapy, but if I do that, those knees work better. They might still hurt, but they don't hurt as bad as if I didn't do anything. And that's the same for the non-physical stuff also. I lost this huge part of me. I lost 25 years of family pictures that were digital because I've been taking them since 97, 98. So I lost that chunk of my history. and all this other stuff. But I can make new memories. And also, how often do we look at our old photos? Almost never. We remember them here, not on the page or on the computer screen.
Yeah.
And how much TV do you watch, or how much scrolling on your phone do you do through social media?
I do a good amount. I
don't think you do as much of the other people. We were talking about your background and your education and what you do. And I'm hearing you like to keep busy. You like to accomplish things. This podcast alone is living, moving proof that you like to do something besides scroll or click.
Very true.
And that's the same for me. I can't, besides on the rare kid, don't get me wrong. If I'm not feeling well, put in that favorite movie and get that comfort food and bundle on the couch with the cats. But if I am feeling well, if I sit there and play a video game all day, there comes a point after 1 day or 2 days, I'm like, I got to do something. I got to have something to show for it. Mm-hmm. So there's writing books and doing podcasts and cooking and gardening and all the things that feed the soul as well as the mind and body.
You're right about that. So, like I said, and you were saying that, like, you embody this spirit of resilience of, like, and just wanting to have everyone involved. And it's like a balancing of creative outlets that you have. How do you structure your life and maintain that focus and energy and resilience across all the different domains that you touch?
It's exactly that. It's scheduling. It's formatting your life so it works. You find your priorities, which, depending what age you're in, they could be different things. Yeah. If you're raising children or going to college, well, those have to be a priority. They have to. And if they're not a priority, then maybe it's better for you and whoever else involved if you separate from that so they can get that attention they need, whether it's a career, somebody you're in a relationship with or whatever. But yeah, you actually structure it. And the important thing is you can go, I've got this time for my kids. I've got this time for my job. I got this time to sleep. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do this. Make sure, please, 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 make sure you have time to do nothing. I don't mean go catch a movie and eat dinner. That's not nothing. I mean being where you're at that very moment, watching the wind blow the leaves or the cars zip by if you're in the city, and just letting your mind float. Not even necessarily wander. We all get stuck on wandering. Look at how many people have trouble falling asleep.
Yep.
But if you could learn that trick of shutting your mind down and just being in the moment. You got one buddy. He loves to go camping. So for 2 days, he disconnects from the world. And there's no point in worrying about things when you've got your tent or whatnot set up. You just get to be you and be with those couple of people you chose to be around. You don't got to worry about that phone bill or a job Monday. And if you do, you're crazy. What are you doing? You're camping. Calm down. And that's it. It's you structure where you can, but you make sure you have time to be with yourself, even if that means other people are around. And that time doing nothing, it really helps you focus when you are doing something.
So you said schedule, though. Like a lot of people that I have run into that I try to coach and mentor and different things of that nature, they always keep saying, like, I'm a creative type, and since I'm so creative, it's hard for me to schedule because it seems so boring. And I'm like, well, what's the alternative?
Right.
So what did you find that helps you schedule that time where you need to get all your stuff done?
Self-discipline. That's all there is to it. It's, I wanted to make a thing. I have to sit down to make the thing. If I don't, it's not going to get done. And if I do it when I feel like it, there's always an excuse to not do that thing. I have a meme I love sharing with people. It says, what do you get when you cross a writer with a deadline? A very clean house. Yeah. And it's true because it's so, when you got to do that thing, you're like, well, let me just put these dishes away. Let me just make the bed. I'm going to do some, look, I'm scrubbing the toilet. What am I doing?
Yep.
I'm on my knees scrubbing the toilet instead of going and doing whatever creative thing you want to do. So I look at my schedule. What has to happen? I have to go to work. I have to get to sleep. I have to eat. I have to spend time with my wife. Those are 4 things I have to do. And she's super understanding and very supportive of when I spend time away from her, because we're in the same house and everything. So, it's easy for her to walk in and flick me in the ear and need attention. So we're good. But I work 12-hour shifts. Well, 12 hours out of the house, 10-hour shifts, but it's an hour drive each way. When I get home, after I get up and get ready and cook and all this, if I want to get 8 hours sleep, which isn't most nights, I have like 2 hours to do something, which means I could watch a movie or a couple episodes of a show or spend time in the bathroom scrolling through my phone. That's 2 hours, right? That's 2 hours. I think. Or I can write.
Yeah.
And that's what I have to do is choose those 2 hours. I'm going to write, and I'm going to sit down, and I live stream my writing, by the way.
You do?
Yeah. I do it as co-working and studying so other people can come in. This is in your own home, almost like an office environment where you got other people in cubicles. And you get a little bored, you kind of look over a cubicle, say something, and then get back to work. But 2 hours a night. If you can write 500 words every night in 2 hours, in a month, you got 15,000 words, right? Am I doing my math right there?
Yeah. About 500.
Yeah. Making sure.
Yeah.
So in 3 months, you've got 90,000 words. That's a reasonable novel. I mean, it's not George R.R. Martin thick, but it's still a respectable novel. And of course, editing, cleaning up takes extra time too. But the point is, if you want something, you got to work for it. Some people win the lottery, but I got to work for it. So to make my lottery moment, I'm putting the time in.
I understand that. I get that. In your estimation, because you are a self-published author, what is better, self-published or a traditional publishing method?
There's pros and cons to both, and I'm also going to throw in vanity publishing or a vanity press, because there's a middle ground between those two things. Now, publishing through a company, it's beautiful because if you get one of the major 5, or they might be 4 now, book publishing companies, they're going to do your marketing, they're going to do your publicizing, they're going to set you up for interviews and et cetera, and that's wonderful because that stuff is tedious to the creative types. I speak from experience, and because I want to go write a book, not make a Facebook ad or post. So that's really nice, but it's very much, they have gatekeepers. Most of them won't even look at your material without an agent. And to get to an agent, you've got to throw your work out there again and again. It's like going fishing. Every time you throw your hook out, you're not going to catch something. Most of the time you don't. And now, on the other hand, the very far side, self-publishing, it had a stigma with it for a while. But now there's enough independent editors and other things to do the afterwork and help you, because you need somebody else to look at your work just to make sure it helps tremendously, almost to the point of necessity. But self-publishing, you have freedom. You can control the pricing. You can control the scheduling. You can pick your cover and artist and, what budget you want to spend. And do you want it to be the latest style or the something from the 80s or whatever? And that's a beautiful thing too. But on the other hand, you're doing all your own marketing, or you're paying somebody to do it, depending on your budget. The middle ground is the smaller medium publishing houses. And what I have found with them, not always, but most of the time when I've spoken to authors that have gone through them, they're like, well, they don't do much for me. I've got their name on my book. I pay them a cut of the royalties. But when I call them going, where's my sales? They just push, are you posting it to your own social media? And if I ask them where they posting my book, there's not. And again, this is not every case.
Yeah.
But it's a cautionary tale to realize some of these folks, and not that they don't do something for you, but they might not be doing what you expect them to do.
Got you.
So I don't know if you asked me which one I prefer and why, but the bottom line is you're going to look at the apples and look at the oranges and see which one you want to bite into.
No, I got you. You. Because I came out with a book, I want to say 2 years ago. It was a short, I just wanted to see if I can do it.
Right.
I really did. And I self-published through Amazon, of course. And I'm working on this next book right now. Well, I kind of finished up the draft, right? And what I did, so I'm trying to build a community around it where the individuals, if they, of course, it's enemy mindset stuff, so they can read each chapter and give me great input, you know, like, and then so from there I can, you know, keep this is good or take it out, and then, you know, hopefully my goal is by 2025, I would say roughly this time 2026, I should be ready and have somewhat of an audience, hopefully, that I would like, you know, build that audience. They're like, hey, we're waiting for the finish the product. So, you know,
absolutely.
The book. So that's what I'm trying to do. But I'm doing it grassroots. So
that's a great way to do it. You are getting a small percentage very excited to buy your book, and giving them 1 chapter, 3 chapters at a time to go over and beta read. That's the term, beta readers, is a great way to do it, because so many people, if you hand them 16 or 30 or 50 chapters, they're just like, I'm going to get to that any day now.
Yep.
And keep track of who does get back to you, because they're invaluable. And the other people we can't be mad at. We all know what life is like, and to think somebody's going to grab everything we give them and read it within 24 hours, that's insane. It's a dream. It is nice, but but yeah, do exactly that, and that's going to help catch a lot of the stuff. And with self-publishing, I'll touch on this, and then you can let me know if you want to know more about it. Amazon doesn't get your book out everywhere. It kind of does digitally. You'll be distributed throughout the world. But if you want a paper copy of your book, potentially in bookstores and libraries and everything else, there are other companies you can go through that predominantly do that.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
I gotcha. And that's something I'm thinking about but I know print, some people don't like print, right? I had a friend that actually, they describe print in a way that's archaic, like CDs. It's like, you know, like CDs was a thing now, but I'm like, vinyl's back in style. So
that's right.
I mean, so like, yeah. And I said, I don't go to the bookstore all the time, but me and my wife, she's from Brooklyn. And when we do go to back to her home in Brooklyn, they have this wonderful bookstore. I think it's a Barnes and Noble still. And it's just a big, beautiful bookstore. So we go there, and I always try to look for different type of first edition books, to get and read. So
nice.
Yeah. But I mean, I love different books to read, especially on self-development and different things of that nature. So yeah, I get it. But I don't know. I'm kind of, I guess, I'm stuck in my ways. So
pros and cons. I'm with you. There is I love audiobooks. I mentioned those long days I have to put an audiobook on and read a book while I'm working all day long. I love that.
Yeah.
And I like to sit down with a paper book and flip through it, and they look really good on my shelves. Yeah. So I also have a huge collection of DVDs and Blu-rays. I love physical medium because I own it. I can't bring a digital copy of a movie or a book and hand it to you. Go, Michael, you got to check this out. It's great. Oh, no, I own it. Wait, the company shut down. I don't own anything.
Yeah.
So there's something to be said for physical media, and convenience on the other side. There's something for that too. Pick what you like, enjoy it.
Yeah. Right. 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 Question for you. You said you had 18 books. Gosh, sorry about that. That is no longer with us. 18 stories. You written across different genres like sci-fi, fantasy, and I thought sci-fi and fantasy was the same thing. It's actually not. It's like vastly different, especially as you explore those worlds, right? And then I think you did what steampunk as
Mhm.
well. So what is that about? Like, and what are the principles in that storytelling, in each storytelling that you find um, dynamic and creative?
Okay, I've published 44 books, looking towards 50. Um, Sci-fi and fantasy often have bleed over. If you imagine a Venn diagram, they definitely have overlap. I've also done self-help. I've done nonfiction. I've done horror. Steampunk is nothing more than science fiction,
Okay.
but it's set in a Victorian era, and instead of using nuclear power, you're using steam power.
Oh, okay, okay.
By the way, did you know we had electric cars in 1880?
No, I didn't.
Yeah, yeah. So I don't know whether they decided it was a bad idea or money is king, and if the internal combustion engine companies had more money, other
Yeah.
people would disappear. But I'm sorry, I've wandered off the topic, Michael.
No, it's just asking. I was asking about the storytelling aspects. What's the difference between that you find interesting?
It's always about character, first and
Mm.
foremost. You could take any character, any story, and put them in almost any genre or setting. Star Wars was nothing more than King Arthur in space. You got a kid with a magic sword, an old wizard teaching him, a princess.
Yeah.
It's
I think
that's
I think some people might disagree with you, sir.
they might, but you have the same tropes, just a different setting.
Yeah.
Um, and then we could also point out, well, what are the droids? And we got the whole round table together. But
Yeah, yeah.
the character is ultimately important. The setting is the seasoning. Let's say you like a good steak. Look, I can make you a steak with, a Chinese food or Japanese. I can make it a Mexican food. I can make it an Italian. There's
For
all
sure.
kinds of things we can do. It's still beef.
Yeah,
It's
that is
just
true.
got different flavors depending what you surround it with. And the
That does
same
make
thing
sense.
for a story. So with steampunk, a lot of times with that, I wanted those old fashioned elements, whether it's the manner of speech, the aesthetic of the buildings where you get trains and steam and everything. If I'm writing cyberpunk, I want that darkness and the neon and the reflection of the glare and the puddles. I love to put like 1930s noir into my cyberpunk, so it almost feels like if 1930 and Blade Runner met, what would that look like? Um,
What's your fascination with 1930 that you would like?
I don't know where that comes from, but I also have a fascination for Mayan and Aztec civilizations that I don't know where that comes from either. I think with the 1930s, it's and 20s going into the 30s. So after World War I, before World War II, we have society we were moving forward, we were climbing up, and then we collapsed. And there was a lot of social issues that we're just finally facing in the past 10 years that were social issues then, and they very much got forgotten for 60 years after the Great Depression. Um, so, and I've always wanted to like gangster movies, but when I watch them, I don't actually enjoy them very much because they're just, I don't know, too heavy, not enough personality. But when we look at the old-fashioned Private Eyes with the whiskey bottle in his desk drawer and she walked in and she had legs that went all the way up to here.
Okay.
It has it just draws me. And
Okay.
I don't have a good reason why. I can't point at one thing and go, that.
See, I grew up on like Matlock. What was his name? It was like, it go dun 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 dun
Uh, uh,
dun dun.
I know
My
that.
dad,
It's not Dragnet.
no, it's not Dragnet.
It's
My dad knows it. We used to watch it all the time.
not Perry
Um,
Mason?
Perry Mason, yes,
Okay.
Perry Mason, yes,
You know they have a new
yes,
Matlock series and a new Perry Mason series out.
yeah, can do it.
Well, I've watched Matlock, and it's different enough. It's its own show with a
Huh?
reference back to the old Perry Mason. I wanted to love it. I wanted to, but I watched like 2 episodes and just kind of wandered away.
Yep,
Like,
can't
yeah.
do it.
So you had your father with Perry Mason and Matlock and these detectives.
Yeah, we used to watch those shows all the time, especially Murder She Wrote when
Oh,
it came out. Like, you know,
yeah,
like
yeah.
some old fogies. You know, what I'm saying? With my dad, like he loves that stuff. So, like, yeah.
I love a good murder mystery. I don't
Mhm.
think I could write one.
Oh, why not?
I don't know if I have that level of discipline to make a story that tight. I feel like I'd have to write it 3 times. And one of the 3 times would be have to start at the ending and work my way backwards so I get all the clues in there and the red herrings and the.
Yeah.
Are you familiar with tropes?
Yes.
Okay. And that goes back to an earlier question. A lot of the things when it comes to why steampunk or why sci-fi, there's certain tropes that I enjoy.
Mm,
And yeah, with a mystery, I love heist movies. Now you see
mhm.
me, now you don't. The Oceans 11, 12, and 13 movies, Italian Job. But I think that might be something I just need to enjoy instead of write.
At least you're honest. At least you're honest.
I say that now, but you watch. There's going to be one day I'm like, you know what? I'm going to try this.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
We'll see how it
Uh,
goes. But
you know, you created intriguing worlds, especially with your books. You know, your writing, you know, how you cultivate communities and your work. What are key things that make people feel invested into what you build, whether it's fiction or real life engagement?
I think engagement is the key word. As a
Uh,
writer, when you write, you want to engage your reader. You want to give them some information your characters don't have. So, it's kind of like when you're watching a horror movie and you're shouting at the screen, don't go in that room,
yeah, yeah.
but the same with the book. Oh, you're going to meet the right person, or you're going to find that thing that's going to lead to, I see this coming. More importantly, connecting him to that character. And a lot of, especially independent authors, indie authors, people are like, you got to keep it moving, you got to keep it moving, you got to keep it moving.
Mhm.
Keeping it moving is wonderful, but you have to connect them to your character also. And showing them how normal that character's life is in the beginning of your story. And then this crazy thing happens, and this very normal person is pushed in that direction or runs in that direction or whatever. That boring part is what allows your reader to relate, because maybe they understand, getting up for work again. Oh, there's that person I'm nervous to talk to, whether, it's because we're going to fight or whether I got a crush or whatever. And in a real community, it's making people heard.
Yeah.
That doesn't mean listening to them for 45 minutes while they tell you all about their childhood. It might mean that sometimes. But it's just, I see you, I hear you, and I'm interested in you. And now there's a bond of somebody gives a damn. And that means a lot. My wife will go around work and just hand out little stickers, little stupid stickers, you're doing great today, whatever. She buys them off Temu, like 250 for $1 or whatever. But she'll give them out to somebody, and sometimes a little pin or a little card, or she got a jar of positive pickles. And it's a pickle with googly eyes, and you open it up like a little teeny card, and it's got some positive, like almost a fortune cookie
That
thing.
is so cute.
And she'll just see somebody walk by. She's like, hey, come here. She doesn't know him. It's not just to friends. And this connects people. It lets somebody know somebody out there saw them, heard them, and cares a little bit.
Yeah.
And you run this show. You know exactly what I'm talking about, where these folks you get on the show, they're so excited that somebody wants to hear what they just did, this thing that they made and spent all this time on.
Yeah.
Everybody in the world is that way. Everybody has spent years making themselves. And to give them that 3 minutes to voice it, or just that 3 minutes to forget all that crap they're going through and talk to somebody that isn't asking, how's your trauma?
Yep.
Let's laugh for a minute.
Mm-hmm.
That builds communities, one person at a time. Because without one person, you don't have a community.
You're entirely accurate with that. No, and that's one thing I love about, like, I am a big anime guy ever since
I
I was
noticed.
able and blessed to go to Japan and lived there for 7 years. And just got immersed in different manga, and I love the underdog stories. I tell my subordinates all the time, my troops, and I'm like, I love a good underdog story. And that's why I tell you guys, don't give up, because I love to see you guys fight back. Like when you're down and out, you feel like you're down and out, and we do aircraft maintenance, so if you mess up, usually that could be a bad thing,
right?
But we got a lot of checks and balances. So usually a lot of people, when you're doing work, especially on these aircraft, you have to be very meticulous, very disciplined. Making mistakes cause a lot of issues. So, and we have a lot of checks and balances. But if they make a mistake, I see how my guys take it really hard, because you're like, oh man, I got complacent. I did this. I'm like, hey man, don't try to beat yourself up. It happened. You ain't nothing you do to change it now, but how you move forward now is going to define you.
That's right.
And, and so I told myself, I love a good comeback story. So come back stronger.
See, that's the resilience right there. Just being able to get back up, and you take your lumps, learn from them, and you move forward. And hopefully you avoid that next time.
True.
Because you learned.
So with you doing so many different books, I do got a question. Like, many creators that I know struggle with balancing their artistic visions with making a living. Have you ever had or has it been made difficult for you between the two, and how to navigate that balance?
Absolutely. Did I mention I have a day job? So
you did?
There we go. Here's what I've learned. I've always been I love to tell people, learn the rules, follow the rules, break the rules, in that order. And I did that. I wrote a book or two, bunch of short stories, and I wrote them how I wanted to. And sometimes they'd come back from people I sent them off to with some advice, and I'm just like, whatever, I know what I'm doing. I did it. There was a lot to learn, and there's always more to learn. Yeah. So I spent 10 years learning the rules and following the rules. And now I've looked back across that 10-year span and went, obviously following the rules isn't the formula to success. So now what can I do to stand out? Let's look back at what I originally did that I loved doing. Let's see where we can combine the two. Yeah. And I'll tell you a couple stories. Are you a big reader, Michael?
Yes. Okay. Now, I used to hate reading before, but yes, now.
You ever read any Anne Rice, who did the Vampire Chronicles?
No, I haven't.
Okay,
no.
I'll talk about her in a moment, but you've heard of her. You know who I talk about.
Yes.
Vampire Lestat, etc. Okay. Stephen King, you heard of that guy?
Love that guy.
Okay. Here's a couple things. By the way, Stephen King is so bad at endings, he makes fun of himself in his own books about his endings.
Yeah.
Stephen King also doesn't write an outline or any kind of notes for his books. He just, on the fly, puts down his book. A lot of his stuff rambles. Here's a character that's not actually important to you yank that whole thing out, it's not important to the story. Story's unaffected. That's a rule. It's got to be important to the story, otherwise you can't have it in your book. But here's Stephen King doing that with a handful of characters in every book he writes,
Uh-huh.
It'll get you to fall in love with a character in 7 pages, and then it'll kill that character. And you're like, hey.
Yeah.
And it wasn't important to the story. It was just one more layer of the story.
Uh-huh.
Anne Rice, now I've read a lot of her stuff, and I've reread it recently. She writes essentially a history book, and then puts characters and gives them lines. She loves her research, and she puts almost all of it, as far as I can tell, in her books. That's a no-no. You can't just info dump on people. You lose your... But Anne Rice, super popular and super successful. So that's what I'm saying. There's rules, but you can break them. If you're doing something right that engages your reader, you break the rules where you want to break them. And you're going to be successful because you're now a standout. You're not a carbon copy of everybody else. And
so when do you break those rules? I know you gave me, and also all the guests here, a truly good breakdown. But when is it? I guess when would you know that it's time to break those rules?
When would I know, or when would anybody know?
When would you know? Like in general, but when would you know? Like you're like, okay, I think I got something, and it shouldn't be. I shouldn't follow the conventional rules here. I think I need to explore something else.
In the beginning of 2024, I mentioned I was going to do all these books, one every 3 weeks. And it was actually 27 books in 15 months.
Wow.
And that's what I was going to do. And now some of them were collections. There were like, we had, here's 4 books. I'm going to put them in one collection, one omnibus, and publish that. So, when you're like, wow, there's 27, not all of them were like write them from zero. It was combined 4 books into a brand new book. Most were written from zero, and I had this all planned out. This was kind of my last-ditch effort of following the rules, because one of the rules of indie publishing, if you want to be seen, you get a book out every 3 weeks, and it triggers that algorithm, so blah, 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 blah. I don't know if you ever watched South Park, but there was an episode with underwear gnomes, and they're like, here's our plan. Step 1, collect underwear. Step 3, profit. Step 2 is just missing. You're just like, what's it? And that's my point. Step 1, write a book. Step 3, profit. What comes in between is going to be different for everybody.
Gotcha.
And I've had one friend who wrote in a very specific genre that they were hungry for, and that exploded. He wasn't even a very good writer. He's gotten better because he's successful, and you hopefully improve on your craft. And I'm not saying he was a bad writer, but when I learned to break the rules is when the old way isn't working. I've been following the rules. It's not working. I had a unique thing I used to do that I stopped doing to follow the rules.
Gotcha.
And that's when I had 10 years ago, I had more people that would come to me going, when's the next thing? Than I do 10 years later. Something happened there. And that's where I went. It's time to start breaking the rules. I've learned the rules. I know how to do this now. And now I'm going to bring in more of me and less of what they say I should do.
Yeah.
And a lot of times when I'd follow those rules, one thing is start on movement, start on action. Yeah. And I had a lot of readers going, your book started so fast and it kept moving. I never had time to get centered. I never put my feet on the ground so I could look around and go, okay, go. They just hit the ground running and got lost. So for other people, you break the rules after you know them well enough to use them without having to remember to use them. Then you're going to add a lot more of yourself into it and make your own unique mixture, like a recipe. You follow a recipe, it's got 6 ingredients. Well, you know what? I want that to be a little spicier. I'm going to add a little cayenne, but not too much, because then you make it your own.
Gotcha. No, I feel you on that one. Okay. And that actually makes a lot of sense. So, okay. Appreciate that.
Maybe use it for your own book.
Yeah. I'm teetering a lot. I'm not sure if you ever heard of the 5 a.m. Club, that book.
I
It was
think I've
written by,
heard of it, but I have not read it.
yeah. So it is a very good self-development book, but
Mm.
he does a lot of storytelling.
Mhm.
He tells a story about this individual. Well, it's three individuals total, but this old man who doesn't look like a billionaire, but he's a billionaire. This young lady who's going through a hard time in her life, and this kind of like overweight, big kind of teddy bear type of guy. He's an artist, and we follow. They basically go to this seminar. They meet him. He tells them, "Hey, I want you to be part of this the club, 5 a.m. club, and I'm gonna basically steamroll your personal development and everything like that." They look at him like he's crazy because he looks like almost like homeless. But
Mhm.
then they notice some things about him, that he has uh, a Rolex watch, right? And then he
Right.
has other things, but it's like it's weird because he's dressing not like a businessman or somebody who's rich.
Right.
And then come to find out as you go through the story, this dude is a billionaire, of course. And then they're like, oh my goodness. And he has a lot of great lessons he's teaching them. And the reason why is because he's going to pass away. But in that, the whole book, and it tells a whole great story, right? And it goes through, but it gives you all like the steps in which he's trying to teach or trying to share with you about waking up at 5 a.m. What are the benefits of it and different things like that. But he wrote it in like a storytell type
Mhm.
of way that I guess give you, I guess, something to hold on to while you're reading,
Right.
which I thought was kind of unique in that way. Because usually, like, people will be like, "Oh man, like a lot of books, like for example, for example, like this book right here, like this book called Extreme Ownership."
Mhm.
And this book, I love it, but it tells a story. It goes why he says what he says about extreme ownership. He goes back to the storytelling. He comes back to the lessons. He goes back to the storytelling to keep you kind of engaged throughout the process.
See, and
And
that's a
so,
nice, unique that lets you give a lot of your own personality
Mhm.
because you got a great podcast, but it's because of you. People are coming back again and again to listen to the content. They're engaged by you. And the same thing with writing that book.
and so that's what I was like. I don't know. Like sometimes I find it like how you was talking about. So I was like, I'm not sure what I should do, if I just should, just be direct with the lessons, or should I tell a story inside of it to keep.
What's more natural to you?
I honestly, I'm I would say, I would personally say, or if I'm doing self development, I'm very rigid, and I just like to, like, step one, I like to get to the cusp
Right?
of things, right, and develop somebody. But usually, I find it, especially when I'm talking to my troops, when I'm using for personal, I end up start telling them a story about my life and how I applied that situation,
Exactly.
and it helps them to, like, I guess, envision it themselves. So,
Just during this conversation, Michael, you have told me stories about yourself. So, just like you mentioned, that story, and then go rigid and break it down one by one. I think that's a beautiful combination. You make it very personal, very engaging, but then you give them black and white, step one, step two, etc. And looking at the 5 a.m. club, like I said, I don't think I've run across this, but I pulled it up here because it sounded interesting. You remember how I mentioned take that hour and sit by yourself, and just the 5 a.m. club has that concept, getting up at 5 a.m. so you have that moment of serenity and everything. That's exactly what I was talking about. So I think I'm going to grab this book, and what you'll find, especially the longer you go on through this life, most people or books or environments you get into to teach yourself something, you already know 70 to 90% of it.
mm,
It's that little bit that you're like, I knew that, but I forgot it, or I
yep.
wasn't using it, or I've never heard that. That's something I'm going to try.
Yeah.
And also, as you make your book, get that support group. Not necessarily your family and friends, they're important, but find some other people just above your level if you can get in there,
Yeah.
but at least at your level. So you're coming up together, you're supporting each other. Their lessons can shore yours up or make you avoid something. But a lot of times we're going to make our own mistakes, even if we heard the lesson before it. But at least you get to come back going,
Yeah,
I did that thing you said.
facts. Well, we have reached the end of our podcast. So is it anything that the floor is yours, anything that you want to share with the guests, the people, to let them know to check out for, and also where to find you at?
Here's what I'm going to say. You find me at TravisSivart.com. The last name is same as the first, but spelled in reverse. So check it out at TravisSivart.com. There you're going to find all my fantasy, sci-fi, self-help. I have a series of kids' books that I put under a pen name. I've done adult humor, and I don't know if that's on my website because that's under another. Anyhow, check out that website. You could join me for live writing sessions. I'm not going to teach you how to write. Those are for me to write and you to join me. So you have a timer on the screen, a group of people around you being supportive. It's that community in the moment. As for books, like I said, large tragedy, but I still published 6 or 8 books last year. I'd have to go count again. One series just ended, having to rewrite it from nothing. I promise you that book is better than the original concept I have. It came out better because I went through more. And a lot of us authors will put our little life lessons into things, especially stuff we're going through. I also will have a book coming out, depending when this hits the air. I have one on March 17th, St. Patrick's Day, because I wanted to. Another one on April 11th, I think it is. And these, again, are omnibuses, collections of multiple books. And I'll probably have another one in May because I have another omnibus I was going to put together last year that I didn't do. And then all the audiobooks will be following also because I narrate my own books and publish audiobooks.
Well, you do have the voice for it.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that. And that's it, Michael. Take over. Show us the door. Let's get this done.
Well, thank you so much, everyone. Please go out, search this man. He is amazing, and be part of his running club. I need to be part of your running club just to see how you do things and hopefully get that, like you said, that wisdom, so I can actually write a bestseller hopefully one day.
I'll be your wall you can bounce ideas off of.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. All right. Well, thank you guys for joining us live. Love you guys. Peace.